Morning.
Good morning. Oh, Christine's joining us. Good morning. Good morning. I'm going to invite people more often. Welcome, Christine.
Hi, Katrin.
Good morning.
Morning, Christine.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Justin.
Morning.
Good morning, Justin. All right, before we finish today, I'm going to need somebody to remind me to take a picture or a note of who all is here. I'm supposed to report those numbers, and I forget every week, and I try to do it based off of memory, and I usually forget someone. So before we log off today, someone remind me to just say attendance or something along those lines.
Okay.
Please.
You might want to do it right before you start the meeting because people
Yeah,
leave
I'll do it. Yeah,
at
I'll
the
do it kind of
end.
at the beginning. That's a good idea. But as per usual, I'll give it like 5 minutes past 9 to let people log on. Sometimes people have technical issues, etc.
You could just
And then
screenshot the attendees, open
that's
that
it.
screen and screenshot that.
That's what I was gonna do. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go back to this.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Austin, if you'd like, I can screenshot it in the middle of the meeting and send it to you.
That would be great. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. As we are getting started, I'm going to share a little thing that I saw that I think will be applicable to what we're talking about today. Give me 1 second. I'm going to spit my gum out so I'm not chewing in everybody's ear. Okay. You can either raise your hand or just nod in agreement. Everyone is familiar with Cookout versus Chick-fil-A, or Cookout and Chick-fil-A, correct? Cool. So I want to give you a couple things, and I want you to think about this as we're going through today. It will be especially impactful for when we talk about, or why we talk about database so much. So let me just kind of read this to you, and then we'll talk about it briefly. So Cookout stays open till 4 a.m. every single day. They've got a menu with everything: burgers, barbecue, quesadillas, milkshakes, and 40 plus favors. I heard the other day that you can literally make anything aside, even a corn dog. But they make 20% or 20x, not percent, 20x less per location than Chick-fil-A. They make approximately $392K per location, whereas Chick-fil-A makes approximately $9.3 million per store. Chick-fil-A closes early. They prioritize the principle of rest on the Sabbath. They're closed on every Sunday. It's non-negotiable. They offer way fewer items, but they're the #1 fast food restaurant in America by revenue per store. They're 4x more than McDonald's and Starbucks. Cookout is the equivalent of the hustling entrepreneur trying to do everything and grinding every hour, whereas Chick-fil-A is a strategic CEO. One is grinding every hour, doing everything and barely scraping by. The other works less, earns more, and has people lining up for their product. This is your reminder. You don't scale by doing more. You scale by doing the right things better and with boundaries. The key takeaway is the grind doesn't guarantee growth. Margin, mission, and mastery outperform hustle every single time. Chick-fil-A isn't winning because they work more, but because they have a system that works smarter, simpler, and on purpose. That's the difference between a hustling entrepreneur and a strategic CEO. One chases more hours and more options. The other builds margins, simplifies operations, and scales with purpose. You don't need more hustle, you need more intention. This is your sign to stop being Cookout and start building your Chick-fil-A. Any thoughts or comments on that before we get started with what we have for in store today?
That was for me. Thank you.
Of course.
Can you repeat all those M's?
No, I can't repeat it. I just read all of it.
Not the whole thing, but there were 3 M's and there. It was
Just kidding.
I have
Mission.
master
Margin.
and mission.
Margin, mission, and mastery.
Master
thank
mission.
you.
Yep.
Can you
Which is
send,
actually, yep.
can you
Go ahead.
send this out in an email?
Yes, I will.
Thank you.
I'm going to send it to the whole office, matter of fact. So margin, mission, and mastery really stand out, especially in a world like Keller Williams, because we talk margin, we talk profit margins. I've obviously been a part of a couple of different brokerages, and I can guarantee you, even the ones that I haven't been a part of, I've had substantial conversations with about joining in between changes, not anytime recently. And yet Keller Williams is the only real estate brokerage that I am familiar with that teaches you how to run a business. Yes, there are a few other out there that tell you how to sell more houses or train you how to sell more houses, but none of them teach you how to grow a bigger business, which is profit margin centered first. That's why we talk about the 30-30-40 or 40-30-30, depending on who you ask. But the 40% profit margin, expenses, cost of goods sold, etc. The whole point of that is I don't care how many houses you sell, I care how much money you make. As your coach, I want you to be successful in terms of profitability and not necessarily in terms of selling more houses. Why, yes, selling more houses is oftentimes the way we get there. The #1 way to protect your profit is to learn how to manage or master your expenses. All of that boils down to your big why, which we talk about often at Keller Williams, whether in Ignite or in other coaching sessions. That's your mission. So if you can master the process, protect your why, or keep that at the forefront, or your mission, you will protect your margins or your profitability. I used to work every hour of every day and felt like my niche or my value proposition was how quickly I could respond or how readily available I was. That was possible until I started having kids. Once I started having kids and I got married and I wanted a life outside of real estate, that was no longer possible. You have to have boundaries set in place. Matter of fact, my business went up once I started employing these boundaries because people realized they could reach me at certain times of the day, and it created a sense of demand. What it also does is you teach others how to treat you. If you don't want to be called at 10 p.m. at night asking a question about a house, don't answer your phone at 10 p.m. at night. Respond to them the next day. I actually play a little game with myself, especially when it's agents from other companies. When they text me too late, I text them too early. I had one last night. She texted me at 10:35 asking me a question. So I responded to her this morning at 5:30 when I woke up. And I said, two can play that game. You're going to text me late. I'm going to text you early. Now, it's kind of silly because I know her and she knows she's going to give me a response probably about an hour and say, you're always up too early. And I'm going to say, you're always up too late. Anybody can be a morning person. You just have to go to bed sooner. Leanne, what you got? I saw your hand go up.
I just wanted to say that really put me in mind of what Jeff Glover said on Thursday about nothing is so important that it cannot wait until after 12 noon.
100%. There's a reason why we do lead generation in the morning. Also, it's unintentional and yet applicable that Christine's on this call because settlement companies and banks, well, Christine's a little bit of an anomaly. She works late, but most settlement companies and banks do not work past 5 o'clock. So something cannot be fixed or taken care of outside of business hours. Now, we are fortunate that we have somebody that extends those business hours. However, most of the time, you're not going to get a response, especially if you're working with or working on a transaction with one of those big ones on the other side, big ones meaning big attorney companies. Those companies, I promise you, will not work past 5 o'clock. And if it's a holiday, they're going to be closed. I heard a funny saying recently, this is probably a couple months ago now, I guess. A broker told me everything is fixable and there are no such things as emergencies in real estate. Now, there can be an emergency in real estate. However, it's about perspective. An emergency in real estate might be the water heater burst and there's water all over the floors. Yes, you should take care of that sooner rather than later. However, if it was between a water heater and a family member or a loved one was just in a car accident, which one are you choosing? So there is perspective there that we want to keep in mind. Okay, enough rah-rah. Let's get into what today's topic is about. I shared with most of you ahead of time, either via email or Facebook post or text. Today, I'm talking about the single most impactful activity I've ever done in my career. And when I say career, that even includes prior to real estate. I have been offered jobs I was less qualified for because of this technique. I have also earned appointments or earned meetings with people that I did not deserve to be in the rooms with. My previous MAPS coach started Keller Williams Relocation. She was coached by Gary Keller herself, and she introduced me to Gary Keller himself. Back when I was doing about 30 deals a year, I had a team doing about 80. I had no business having her as my coach or having a direct line of communication to Gary Keller. And yet, part of why all of those things happened was because of what we're going to talk about today. So I hope that was enough of a hook. Those of you that are familiar with Brian Buffini, he is the largest business coach in North America. This is the technique I stole from him. Nothing in my career has cost less money, taken less time, and built a bigger fortune for me than the expression of gratitude, especially through personal notes. What we're talking about today is handwritten notes. Seems simple enough. A handwritten note will give you the opportunity to connect with those people and make a deposit in their emotional account. It also sets you apart from the competition by demonstrating the level of care and service you can provide. Now, we'll talk some numbers here a little bit, but I want to give you a couple more statistics. There's going to be like 4 slides in a row that are all kind of saying why handwritten notes, and then we'll start talking about some details. So, a couple things I want you to keep in mind. You cannot reread a phone call. Now, every time I share this with somebody, they say, yeah, well, you can reread a text. True. However, raise your hand or nod in agreement if you've ever accidentally deleted a text. Raise your hand and nod in agreement if you've deleted a text out of anger and then wished you hadn't. Or sadness. Doesn't always have to be anger. Or you upgraded phones, or you dropped your phone in a pool or in the toilet, or it cracked and broke, and you weren't able to retrieve those old text messages. Handwritten notes are timeless / tangible. You can keep them on a desk. I'll tell a story here in a little bit about a past client of mine that kept every single handwritten note I ever sent her. It's a personal touch. You can also give a business card or something to remind them of you there. Economy at scale, we're going to talk about that here in a minute. It takes time and it shows that you took extra time. People that have a cell phone know how easy it is to send a text. In a world full of AI or artificial intelligence, it's even more prevalent to scale things using technology. An example I always give here, and I'm not saying it's a problem if you're doing this. However, if you record one video and send it to 50 people, if you did not personalize that video, they could, not always, but they could feel like it was sent to multiple people. And that can take place a lot quicker than sending an individual video. If I were to say, hey, Bianca, send a video. Hey, Carol, send a video. Hey, Christine, send a video, and go individually, that's going to take me longer, and yet it's more personal. Handwritten notes are very similar to that. While the messaging may be the same, if I'm doing a group of handwritten notes per day, it's still personal to that recipient, and I'm going to make sure that stands out. We'll talk about that when I give some examples in a little bit. And you can still have the call to action in a handwritten note. Another way of looking at this is you can still track whether they read it or not. There's a famous saying. So there's two main coaches in the real estate world that really push handwritten notes. This is not necessarily in the slides, and yet it's applicable. Number one is Brian Buffini. We talked about that at the beginning. If you sign up for Buffini coaching or Buffini's referral maker system or referral mastery system, you get a kit every single month that comes with item of values to mail your people. It comes with stickers, and it comes with 50 handwritten notes every single month. Now, I'm not telling you to go do that. However, 50 notes is roughly 2 1/4 or 2 3/4. I can't remember the exact math, or call it 3 notes a day. If you're writing 3 handwritten notes a day, 5 days a week, 20 days a month, it's roughly 60 notes a month. He's giving you 50. We're going to talk about economy at scale here in a second. The other coach, I'll get you in a second, Lynn. The other coach is Michael Mayer. Michael Mayer is one of my favorites to listen to. Not that I don't listen to Brian Buffini. However, Michael Mayer is a Keller Williams agent. He has written 2 very popular books in real estate. Number one, I'm reading again for probably the 5th or 6th time right now, called The 7 Levels of Communication. And number 2 is The Miracle Morning, which we've talked about before. He also has a group called Refer Co, which is all about how to work by referral. He has a Facebook group called Gen or Generosity Generation, which is talked about in those books. And he has spoke at probably every single family reunion for the last 10 years, including this most recent one. Lynn, what's your question?
50 handwritten notes, like what you should write or already written?
They're blank.
Oh, so
He's giving you the
like
notes,
50
the
note
notes and
cards.
envelopes. Yep, note cards and envelopes.
Oh,
Yep.
okay, I got it.
Yep.
Thanks.
But we're going to talk more about that kind of systematically here in a little bit when I start talking about examples. But that is a good question. So from there, what we can refer to is the note cards themselves. We're going to start with a plan of 2 a day, and I'm going to show you kind of how to get there. So this is why consistency wins. Start small, a few number each day, compounded over time equals a large impact. This is that economies of scale that I mentioned. If I gave you 50 note cards and I said, all right, go write 50 handwritten notes to people you know, you're probably not going to do it. Or you're going to go, I can't write 50 notes, my hand would fall off. And yet, if you write 2 per day or 10 per week, that's 40 in a month. It's also 520 per year if you work 52 weeks a year. Call it 500 if you take 2 weeks off. A couple of ideas that you might write somebody a handwritten note for are birthdays, home anniversaries, gratitude, just saying thanks, giving congratulations, asking for referrals, or giving referrals, giving them a market value of their home, etc. Today, you're going to see 3 examples of handwritten notes, all 3 of which I have used. Now, I've been doing handwritten notes for 13 years. I'm now up to 5 a day. It takes me about 10 minutes, maybe 20 minutes if I really have to think on it. Real quickly, I'll show you.
Do you buy stamps in 100
Yes.
rolls?
Yes.
And how
So
often
this
do
is
you have
my
to buy
gratitude.
stamps?
Once a month. No, every other month. This is my gratitude list. So I can see the last time I sent them a note. I can see the next time I'm going to send them a note. People in my database get notes every 3 months. It's about 114 people. And I just go down that list and I just start writing notes. Now, I will also do other notes. That's just the people out of my database. We're going to talk about other people you could write notes to as well that aren't on that list that still get handwritten notes. So it's not 5 from that list every single day. Those are usually 2 or 3 days a week. And then the other 2 or 3 days a week are other people that I've interacted with that week. So we'll talk about it. But all right, couple more points as to why we do personal notes. In a world full of technology, personal notes stand out. These are stats directly from Brian Buffini. But before we get there, by a show of hands, how many of you receive something in the mail each week, either at home or at work? Exactly. Hopefully everybody's got their hand up. And if not, you don't have a mailbox. Now, how much mail do you receive? Not necessarily in a quantity or a number, just more of like, is it stacks of mail, especially if you buy a house or change businesses or change addresses soon, that stack gets a little bit bigger. Out of that stack, how many of you have ever received a personal note that you kept at any point? On average, 0.7 pieces of mail each week are personal, or less than 1 piece per week is a personal something, whether a handwritten letter, etc. Now, in the 7 levels, I'm going to steal this example because I heard it this morning on my drive here. They share a story. If you were to get, and I'm going to use Jeff Glover as an example because we just had him. In the book, they used Donald Trump, but it was written pre Donald Trump's political phase. So this was back when he was more of a real estate mogul, not political. So I'm going to use Jeff Glover. If you saw an ad on Facebook or you got an email that said, Jeff Glover is going to be in Richmond, you should come. Some of you might go. Some of you might just keep scrolling. Now, if you just went last week, you're probably more inclined to go because you saw the value that was given. But let's assume that didn't just happen. If you got an email advertising Jeff Glover, the chances of you going might go up a little bit. If you got a jumbo postcard that was printed and looked all nice and said the dates and stuff, maybe the details or the chances of you going increase a little bit more. However, the 3 most likely ways to get you to that conference, imagine if you got a handwritten note from Jeff himself saying, I want you to come to this conference. You even lick your finger and rub it across the note and see that the ink smears and that it's real ink and it was actually handwritten. That's going to increase your chances of going. Now imagine after you get that letter, you get a phone call from Jeff himself saying, I want to make sure you're at this conference. I sent you a mailer. I sent you an email. I sent you an ad. I don't know how to make it any more clear. Make sure you're at the conference. This is called a communication pyramid. Something handwritten and personal is towards the top of that pyramid. The number one reason, which I didn't even mention in that story, would be somebody you know, like, trust, and value telling you, I'm going and I want you to come with me. That's what we call a referral. Referrals at the top, personal invitations number 2, handwritten notes number 3. All 3 of those are above text, email, postcards, printed advertising, or digital advertising. That point I made at the beginning of the call today with Chick-fil-A versus Cookout, we want to get very, very specific on how we're going to stay in touch with people. And we get very specific on working out of our database. We already have a relationship with them. Let's talk about the top 6 reasons why we write notes. The cool thing is if you write a single note, you can accomplish all 6 of these at once. They leave a positive and lasting impact. I told you I'll tell you a story here in a second about that exact thing. They help you build a database of quality relationships. This is why we want to have a mailing address for everybody in our database before we consider it a complete contact. So we can mail them something. It's not so we can mail them a flyer of all of the houses we just sold. It's so that we can write them a handwritten note. They show you care, and they make you a more likely candidate to receive referrals. That will also be a part of my story here in a second. They can make someone's day. Personal notes set you apart from competition, and they deepen your personal and professional relationships. So, I threw a first-time homebuyer seminar in 2016, maybe 2015, at a bar that used to be called Keegan's. Forget the name of it now, but it's in Short Pump. They've changed names, changed ownerships a couple of times. I had a lender and a title person help sponsor the homebuyer seminar with me. We had 4 people show up. One of them was my roommate. So really, we had 3 people show up. Of those 3 people, 2 of them were friends. One of them was my friend from college, and she brought someone. The person she brought was a client named Megan. Megan bought a house with me about 6 months later. Talk about a return on investment. I stayed in touch with Megan through text, through email, through calls, and most importantly, through personal notes. Last year, Megan called me because she was taking a job in Charleston, South Carolina that was too good to pass up and wanted to sell her house. When I went over there to meet Megan, she had a little blue handwritten note card sitting up on her desk in her office. I said, "That looks familiar." She said, "That's the first handwritten note you ever sent me back in 2017. Then she opened her drawer and showed me about 30 more of them and said, "I've kept every single one you've ever sent." Now, it probably was about 30 notes because it was every couple of months. She bought in 2017, and then she sold again 7 years later. So if it's 4 a year times 7, 28 notes. I get my notes. Now I get them from Amazon. Previously, I used to go to the dollar store because you can get 4 to 6 of them for about $1.10. So let's call it $5 worth of note cards for 30 of them. And if each stamp is $1, it's not, it's like 60 cents, but let's call it $1 just for easy math. By a show of hands, how many of you would spend $35 to make 10,000? Because that's about what that commission was. Yeah. Everyone's saying, yeah, they're nodding, yes. Yeah, that's a pretty good ROI. Not to mention the amount of time it took me to write that note was about 30 seconds. Now, Megan not only sold her house with me, she hired a contractor of mine to rebuild her deck. This was before I came back to Keller Williams. So at the time, I was also working with that contractor. So I got paid hourly to help build that deck. We then got 3 more jobs from neighbors building decks because Megan referred us. She then referred her brother and sister-in-law who were looking to build a house in North Carolina to me. I referred them to an agent and got paid another $4 or $5 grand on a referral fee. And then she was already working with an agent, and she talked her agent into paying me a referral fee on the house that she bought in Charleston, South Carolina. So now that $35 turned into about $23,000, $24,000 in 1 year. from Handwritten Notes. Quite the impact. That's just one example. I've had several of clients that something similar has happened where I show up, I see the note, and that's when they reply. Thoughts, comments, questions, concerns before I keep going?
My only concern or my question would be, I do link it to command. So in command, there's tracks, birthday, anniversaries, and everything else. And then command reminds you. So you could use also command for a kind of a checklist.
Yeah, absolutely you can. And I have that. So let me show you. Let me turn these tags off.
I think command also would have a feature that it could assist you, I guess, in writing the notes. You just have to put it as handwritten notes and send it out, mail it out.
Yeah, and I would avoid doing that. You don't want to add too much tech to it. Like there are companies out there that'll make it look like your handwriting. That can get a little less personal. I know it seems time consuming, but that's kind of the point of it, is that you want it to show that you took time. Also, my handwriting is not always the same. If I've done more writing that day, for example, my handwriting gets a little sloppier. There are other tricks that we're not going to necessarily talk about today, but there are other tricks that you can employ, such as writing from the bottom left corner up to the right is typically more impactful. You can also use blue ink instead of black, and it's warmer or more inviting. Now, don't use a bright like red or orange or something like that. That's harder on eyes. I'm trying to think of one that I sent yesterday so I can show you. When I send a note, I come in here and I leave a note and I kind of give myself some bullet points on what I wrote to them. So this was somebody that got a note from me yesterday, sent it out, done. And it's also on that gratitude checklist. So you're 100% right. You can add command. Now, what I would recommend doing too, especially when you start out, is give yourself tasks. So that's a little bit more of like a Rachel training, or I can show you how to do it, but you can create tasks. So when you log in a command, it says like, send out these note cards today. I have tasks for myself for when I send out my newsletter, which is tomorrow, the first Tuesday of every month. So you can see client newsletter it says due in the next 7 days. It's due tomorrow. I have to do it tomorrow, due date. So every single month this comes up. These are the birthdays that we're talking about. So you can set reminders in command so you know who to be sending it out to or when and what you're saying. So perfect transition to the next slide. Who do you write notes to? These are just some examples. You can write them to anybody. Your current and past clients, family and friends, your personal service providers. These are just examples. Doctor, painter, accountant, etc. Lenders and agents you do business with. That's a big one, especially in our world where we do have a recruiting model. You can build profit share from agents you bring to the company. You can also erase your cap if they are cappers. It's like getting a $5,000 bonus. If you have a good transaction with somebody, send them a little handwritten note. Thanks so much for your help on getting this one across the finish line. Can't wait to do another one with you soon. Business owners you work with or respect, someone you'd like to meet. Lynn, I'll get you in a second. One other point I wanted to make on who. I mentioned this at the start of the call. Anytime I went on a job interview, as soon as I left, when I got in my car, I had handwritten notes sitting in the front seat. And I would write a handwritten note thanking that person for my time. I was hired as a college swim coach assistant, but an assistant head coach for a college swim team with no college swim coaching experience because of a handwritten note. The athletic director point blank told me. He said, you stood out over all the other candidates because you were the only one to take time to thank us for our time. Not only that, you did it over a handwritten note, which I still have on my desk to this day. That was 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, 2017, 8 years ago, whatever. You get it. I do the exact same thing now after listing appointments, regardless of if I got that listing or not. Usually I get the listing at the time of the appointment. Sometimes there's some follow-up involved. I still send them a handwritten note right afterwards. You really want to look speedy and efficient? Have it already stamped and addressed in your car and put it in their mailbox before you even drive away. Now, still have it stamped. I know that seems like a waste. However, A, it's going to look like you beat the U.S. Postal Service, and they're going to be like, man, that person's efficient. And B, you're staying within federal guidelines to put it in their mailbox with a stamp. Now, if they have a paper box, you don't have to have it stamped. You can put it in the paper box. Not all mailboxes have paper boxes. What you got, Lynn?
Okay, so I'm in a townhouse, and at the other end of the townhouse, I was leaving my house one day, and this lady came running out to the car, and she asked me if I had seen her package. Her first name is Holly. My last name is Holly. So then we started talking a little bit, and she said that she wanted to put in a big bathtub in her house. And I don't really know. I live in the same floor plan, so I didn't really get what she was trying to say. But I sent her a handwritten note to ask her if she ever found her package. And then also she had a for sale by owner sign in front of her house. So I asked her about that. And sent her 2 handwritten notes. I've not gotten anything back. Should I keep doing it?
Is the for sale by owner sign still up?
No, it's gone. They took that down a long time ago. They had their address at gmail.com, and she said that they got some really weird emails, and so they took it down. And I, like in one of the notes, I said, I could find you the house with the perfect bathtub. She's a nurse. And I found all that out in like 5 minutes.
Yeah, really the only reason I asked about the for sale by owner sign is to make sure that they're still living there.
Oh yeah, they're still there.
Yeah, then
Yep.
I mean, I would do it, but the key to handwritten notes is you don't want, it's not as often of a follow-up as like a phone call or a text or an email would be. At the most frequent, I would do one a month to somebody.
Oh, well, I haven't even done that yet because it was like 5 months ago, maybe.
That's what I was gonna say. I mean, most common is like every other month or every 3
Yeah.
months. But
Okay.
at the most, yes, I mean, I would keep trying it. That's
Right.
a good
Because this
example
last one
too.
says someone you'd like to meet.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Right. Okay. That's why I
Um,
asked.
yeah,
Thanks.
and the next one I would do, just as a coaching point, the next one I would do is just say that, like, hey, I'm looking to meet with more neighbors that I can that I've either already had interactions with or can continue to have interactions with. Would you be open to getting coffee sometime? It doesn't always have to
Oh,
be about
okay.
real estate. Yeah, and we're going to talk about that here in a second with some examples.
Okay.
Yeah, it can just be, hey, I'd love to catch up sometime. Most
Okay.
of the time when I'm sending stuff to past clients, it has nothing to do with real estate. It's, I was in your area the other day and thought about you, or I saw your Facebook post about your daughter graduating. That's so exciting. Seems like it was just yesterday when she left high school, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It does not have to be about real estate. It can be anything, even just a simple thank you, which we're going to talk about. All right. When to write notes, kind of just talked about some of this, but here's some other examples. To follow up, you can follow up on just about anything. You can follow up on something you previously sent them, follow up on a phone call, follow up on a pop-by you left them, or most importantly, follow up on a meeting. If someone takes the time to meet with you, send them a thank you note in the mail saying, really enjoyed our time. Looking forward to catching up again soon. After you received a referral, this one should be bolded and starred and asterisked and underlined 100 times. Anybody that sends me a referral immediately gets a thank you note from me. It doesn't matter if the referral closes or not. I got one last week. I was driving home from the office. Past client called me. To be honest with you, I looked at the phone and went, I really don't want to answer this. This lady's kind of crazy. I don't really want to deal with this. But as I turned around to grab the pump, I thought, you know what? Just go ahead and answer it. It's going to save you less work later when you got to follow up. So I answered it. Her name is Obi. Hey, Obi, how's it going? She said, Obi said, Austin, I'm glad you answered the phone. I want to connect you with my daughter. She's already met with the builder. She just needs to write the contract. She told them that you're her agent. You help her. I said, sure will. So now I'm helping her daughter build a house that will probably be 500 to 600K range. And all I had to do was answer the phone. After she three-way called the daughter, I talked to her, she hung up. I stayed on the phone with Obi and she said, I used to call you and you would never answer, or you would text me because you're always busy. I'm so glad you answered the phone. She said, last year, to be honest with you, I almost gave up. I almost decided I needed to find another agent. She bought her first house with me, sold that house, and bought another house with me. So I've worked with her a couple of times. She said, but around the holidays, you sent me the sweetest handwritten note that I decided I would give you one more try. And I was like, well, Obi, I really appreciate that. To be honest with you, I've gone through a lot of growth and changes over the years. And I will now make it a point of mine to not only always answer the phone if possible, I will call you back. I will not text you. And that's now a note in the contact in command. So I remember, don't text Obi, pick up the phone and call her. Obi also got a handwritten note from me yesterday saying, thanks for the referral. She sent it to me on Friday. Now, if it closes, I can do a gift for her. This includes referral agents. I send them a thank you as soon as they make the connection. There have been agents that I've sent a thank you note for referrals when I never even reached the referral, never heard from the person. And yet we reward the activity that we want to see repeated. I want them to think of me when it comes to Richmond referrals or Richmond area referrals. I don't want them to think of me, or I don't want to just thank the referrals that close. That's my job to get it closed. It's their job to refer me. So anytime you receive a referral is a great opportunity. And if you are part of other businesses, do the same thing. Not to be personal, but Justin owns a landscape company. This is something you can implement in your landscape company business. You get a referral, thank them for the referral. Then when they find out you're in real estate, it's an even easier referral. When someone does something that you appreciate or after you received excellent service. Another example. Thanks so much for taking care of our clients. We look forward to sending you more referrals. I've probably sent 7 or 8 handwritten notes to my brother of all people because he owns a painting company. And I see him every single week. And yet he still gets handwritten notes. There's several reasons why. One of the main ones, when I mail him a handwritten note, I can go to his house. I send it to the office. He has about 20 employees. I don't know which one's checking the mail that day. But I know every single time a handwritten letter comes from me, they're going to be handing it to Matt and saying, you got another handwritten note. And then it's a conversation starter for him to say, oh, yeah, it's my brother. He's probably sending me a thank you for taking care of the Blankenships or whoever. Before, during, or after a transaction, here's a fun tip. Do all 3. After you meet with the buyer or the seller for the first time, send them a note. When you're working through it, send them a note. And then after they close, send them a note. My favorite time to send them a note, 30 days after they close. Congrats on your first month in your home. Hope it's still going great. Let me know if I can help with anything. Chat soon. To reestablish contact, this is kind of what Lynn Ann was talking about. Sometimes you have a conversation with somebody, or Obi was another example, the story I just told. I had not heard from her in a while, so I sent her a note around the holidays. Now I was sending her a note around the holidays anyways, and yet that reestablished contact for us. And then to simply make someone's day. You can also just send notes because you know that they're the nice thing to do. All right, let's give a couple examples. The font may be kind of hard to read, so I'm going to read it out to you. Sample note number 1, client relationship. Dear Jody, thank you for the referral to Bob and Linda. You can be confident I'll take great care of them. Your trust and support are greatly appreciated. All the best, Austin. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. This is very similar to what I wrote to Obi. Personal relationship. Dear Beverly, I was just thinking of you today and wanted to check in. Hope all is well with you. I'm looking forward to chatting with you soon. I'll be in touch. Now, this is straight from Buffini. If you've ever gotten an email from me, you see it in my email signature. I've used it for 13 years. It's a good life. I could not tell you how many times I've had a conversation start about that. Now, if all of you go start using It's a Good Life in your email signatures, we're going to have a conversation. Just kidding. You're more than welcome to steal it. It's not mine. It's Brian Buffini's. Something similar to that will stand out. It's a good life. All the best. Another one I see a lot is make it a great day. It's just a little different than sincerely or regards or yours truly even. It just stands out a little bit more. And that's how I sign every single handwritten note. Matter of fact, I used to have notes that on the front said, "It's a good life." That was the brand on the note. Now I made them and I got tired of paying for them. So now I go to the dollar store. Matter of fact, I actually don't even do the dollar store tricks anymore because I write so many notes consistently. I go on Amazon and I type in handwritten notes and I get a pack of 50 of them that are blue and gold that say thank you on the front. That's all they say. And it's $15 for 50 of them. And when I get low in the box, I order the exact same box again. And I've been using that box for about 2 years now. Even if I'm sending this type of note, I was just thinking of you today and wanted to check in. I hope all is well with you. Still saying thank you on the front is fine. It's still a personal gratitude note. You can also repurpose those. And then lastly, another third note. Dear Lewis, it was great meeting you for lunch. I look forward to growing our businesses together. Let me know how I can help. And then there's that signature again. These are B2B relationships. What questions do you have? I know it seems pretty simple. The best advice I can give is to start. Have a goal of 2 a day. Heck, have a goal of 1 a day. It does not need to be over complicated. Now, the 2 best times a day to write notes are first thing in the morning before anything else happens, or the exact opposite, the last part of the day after everything else has happened. One of my favorite things about handwritten notes is they are not time sensitive like a phone call or a text would be, or a meeting. Phone call, text, and meetings happen, call it 8 to 8 or 8 to 7, probably more realistically. Handwritten notes, you can do it anytime. I cannot tell you how many handwritten notes I've written at 3 in the morning when the baby needs to be fed a bottle because she's not sleeping. I got 3 kids, so it's happened a lot. Or on a Sunday morning while your kids are watching their version of church after you've already watched yours and you're sitting on the couch with them and writing out a few notes. Or you're watching a football game in the afternoon. Or you're listening to a podcast. You can do them at creative hours and not get in the way of regular business. I would not do them at 9:30 when you're in PC group coaching. I would not do them at 9:30 when you're supposed to be lead generating. Although they can be a form of lead gen, because they are not time sensitive, work them into other slots. That's why I like first thing in the morning when it's too early to call somebody, or at the end of the day when it's too late to call somebody, or I've already taken care of the rest of the stuff for the day. Typically what I do is the night before, I'll take, in my case, 5 envelopes with stamps on them and 5 note cards. And I put the note card in the sleeve of the envelope and I set them on my computer with my computer shut, sitting right on top. So when I get up the next morning, I have to write those note cards before I can open my computer. Now, the way that process looks for me, I address the note on the outside of the envelope. I write their name. I open the note. I write their note. I set it to the side. I do the next one, set it to the side, do the next one, set it to the side. Do all 5, open my computer, pull up command, write down their address because I don't memorize all the addresses, and then add the notes in command that I'm doing the notes. And then I throw 5 business cards in there, seal them up, and go on about my way. It's pretty simple. Any other questions or comments to reflect on where you are, either with handwritten notes or just about your business in general?
Question, Austin, do you sometimes
Yes.
include the business cards as well? So
I
like
always include a business card.
always.
There's
Okay.
always a business card in the envelope. Good question.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Yep. If it's something that I'm trying to get. Like there are, I guess, a few times that I've written a handwritten note that's not business applicable. Like if I'm writing a handwritten note to my dad, for those of you that don't know, as a broker, I'm not giving him my business card. But that's the anomaly more often than not. I've written handwritten notes to lenders. I've written handwritten notes to inspectors. I've written handwritten notes to, so like people that obviously have my contact information and know I'm in real estate, and yet the business card still goes intact. It's a conversation starter more than anything, and my plan is for somebody else that they know to see it. And they just always have a business card of mine on hand. There are times that I've had a text or a referral from somebody that said, "Hey, I gave your card to somebody." I'm like, "Okay, cool. Next time, just do a group chat with the two of us because they're going to lose my card." Good question. All right, I did want to share this. We share it every week, and yet it's important. I've changed the script up a little bit. Instead of thinking about this as a scorecard, the top agents are accountable. They're held accountable. These are the 5 statistics they're keeping track of. You can go to any Keller Williams office anywhere in the world, find their ALC, their top 20%, and ask them these 5 questions, and they're probably going to have an answer. I've mentioned this before. I'm on a coaching right now with MAPS called 30, 60, 90 with leadership of offices all across the country. It costs $2,500 a month. It ain't cheap. The 2 coaches that lead it are the coaches of the year for all of MAPS coaching, aka all of Keller Williams, for the last 2 years in a row. Every single day that we're on a call, the first thing they ask for, how many people did you contact yesterday? There's a reason that's number 1. How many real estate conversations did you have? Now, when they're saying contacts, they mean conversations. Then they ask, who did you hire yesterday? Because they're talking to leadership, so they're talking about recruiting, which is number 5. Every single day they ask this question. And even if number 5 is 0, we still have to report it. If not, we get fussed at. And I don't like getting fussed at. So we still report it. The middle 3, that's how you get to number 5. You have conversations, you add them to the database, you stay in touch with them. Then you set an appointment. Then they keep that appointment. Then you sign an agreement. Leanne, you got a question?
Yeah, so a conversation is 2 ways. So a handwritten note is not, right?
Correct. Yeah,
Okay.
correct. Now, I would still keep track of what handwritten notes you're writing. Those of you that were in the trainings last week, we talked about RWATs, or real estate workout of today. One of those RWAT exercises is handwritten notes. So keep track of you writing handwritten notes. It is a powerful tool you can use. There's also a famous saying with Michael Mayer, who's arguably the second biggest coach on these things, that says there is power in the PS. So when I write a handwritten note, the body of the message is on the bottom. On the top, there will be a PS, and that's where the call to action is. So it might say, PS, we're having a client event next month. Shoot me a message so I can get you the details. Now, I know all darn well I've already sent them the details. But if they reach out to me in about 7 to 8 days, I know that A, they got my note, and B, they read it. Because they're then texting me and saying, hey, what's this about this client event? Sorry, we forgot to RSVP. Or I might say, PS, I'd love to get coffee soon. Text me so we can set up a time to chat. Then I can count the conversation because now they've reached out to me. Yeah, what's up?
So you put the PS at the top and then you put what you're writing?
Yeah, so my notes open like this. They open top to bottom.
Right, right.
So the top will be the PS, the bottom is the body of the message. If they're
All right,
side to side, it'll be the same thing, left to right.
Can you also explain where you said earlier, starting in the lower left-hand corner and going up to the right?
Yep. I'm not really sure why or what the psychology is behind it, but it's something that's taught by the coaches. It makes it more personal and it's something with the psychology of like, it makes the note feel more uplifting if you write in the bottom left and write upwards. So your handwritten note is kind of going like this. The body of the message is slightly tilted in the bottom portion of that card. That's how my PSs go. The body of the message is usually pretty square because I kind of write a lot. I wish I should have brought a handwritten note to show you guys like an example of one I've actually written. I'll bring one tomorrow if I can remember. Cool. Any other questions, thoughts, comments, concerns?
This is what we're doing in class tomorrow, right?
We'll see. Must be present to win. Yes, no, we're going to do some handwritten notes. We're also going to do some other active lead generating where we can stay in touch with people, because we're not just going to write handwritten notes for an hour. All of you guys would hate me. So we're going to do a couple handwritten notes and a couple of other lead generating activities at 9 o'clock tomorrow. It's a regular Tuesday, so we will be up in the big training room upstairs. And that's all I got. Cool. Thank you for being here today. I appreciate you guys. I will see you all tomorrow.
Thanks, Austin. Have a great
Thank you,
day.
Austin.
Does anybody else want the notes from Jeff Glover? Just text me or email me.
Thanks, Lynn. Thank you.
Okay. Bye for now.
Bye-bye. Thank you.